Hello everybody, Robert here. I just finished the webinar Reserves to the Rescue and wanted to take a couple minutes and show you a little bit of uPlanIt and what it is and what it does. We've got a Components tab where we show the components, control panel where it shows basic information, starting balance, interest and inflation, recommendations page where a lot happens. Basically, it shows the objective of the funding plan. It shows the percent funded through the years. You can see this association doing $5,000 a month. A nice smooth funding plan through the years. You can also see the annual reserve expenses. Now let's go back to the Components tab and take a look at those expenses through the years. Basically, as Adrian was suggested, the first step is to do some information gathering at your association, and this association found out that the metal perimeter fence is really not theirs. It's responsibility owned and maintained by the neighboring association. So let's edit this component and turn funding off for this component. Notice it turns light gray. And metal fence, let's turn off the repaint. So now that is not considered in the funding calculation. So we can pop over to the recommendations page, click the full solver. You can see that now with those expenses turned off, it goes surplus. Click the full solver and it defines a multi-year funding plan that is down to $44.70 a month. So they're saving money already, and we haven't actually done anything to conserve cash, reallocate cash, or save cash as we spoke about in the webinar. But let's go back to the components list, and let's actually do something that we did in the webinar. Let's look at wood fence. It's got a 0 years remaining useful life. Let's say that they are able to push that out a year, not change the expense at all, but just push it out 1 year. And like we said in the webinar, that is really not saving any money. That's just delaying it. So even with that change, you can see it does basically nothing to the funding plan. But let's look at control panel. They have a little over $250,000, $276,000, and so that looks like an opportune place to borrow some cash. And let's presume that they need $50,000 right now. So we can go to the recommendations page and enter a first-year special assessment. First-year special assessment of $50,000. Actually, make it a minus special assessment. Recalculate, and you can see now they drop down, but you can also offset that with a couple of $25,000 special assessments to pay it back, and we're back to a stable situation. So let's take a look at this. Go over to the tables and charts, and let's confirm the cash flow. Yeah, that's fine. And let's look at the cash flow through the years. You can see they've withdrawn $50,000, but are paying it back over the next 2 years, keeping a nice stable reserve funding rate, contributions, and gradually getting their percent funded a little bit up and closer to the 100% range. So that's a nice quick tour of uPlanIt, the kind of things you can do. Funding plan override is where you need to push some numbers. Control panel is where you could change the starting balance, interest and inflation. But for the purpose of what we were talking about in the webinar, this is a great tool to do your what-if adjustments.